Over a long career in the department, I've been involved in a lot of projects. Quite a few have been producer initiated, some have been myself, other team members in the department, quite a few other people come in with ideas. This is one of those projects, and it's a very successful project. On the scale of things, it's fairly small, but it is significant. And the reason behind it is that if you want to get adoption by producers, demonstration is one of the most powerful tools. You can run workshops, you can run webinars, whatever, but something on the ground, producers really lock onto it. And that was the case here. So there was a severe gully erosion problem here. There's other gully erosion problems in the district. By comparison, this one was relatively minor. But the beauty of this as a producer demonstration site was it was adjacent to the Harveys Range Road, which is a main road going into Townsville from the west. So it's a great location. People can see it from the road, and people do pull up and have a look at it. So we're on a property called Paynes Lagoon, which is owned by the Nicholas family. I approached David in 2015 to see if he was interested in doing something with this severe gully erosion that was occurring on his property. David was quite keen. David's got a very strong background with machinery, earth-moving equipment. He's a very proficient operator, and he did a great job. And more importantly, his two boys are also very proficient on machinery, and they probably did the majority of the work. At that stage, one was still at school and the other one was, I think, 20. What we did with this gully, there's many ways you can address gully erosion, but what we elected to do here was to use machinery to actually mechanically rehabilitate the gully. Because this area is completely remnant vegetation, we had to get a permit to clear the site, which we did. Got a permit from the Department of Natural Resources and Mines. That enabled us to clear down the gully 30 metres, 40 metres either side, take the trees off and stack them up. Because when you're using machinery, it's impossible to do gully reclamation if there's trees right up to the edge of the gully. So once the trees were removed and stockpiled, we used the bulldozer to stockpile the topsoil off the site. So sweep the topsoil away from the gully edges and stack it probably 30 metres away, all the way around the gully. The gully's 300 metres long. To give you an idea of the severity of it, at the head of the gully, it was 3 or 4 metres deep, probably 6 metres wide, and you went down the catchment, it got progressively deeper, wider, and there's more little side gullies coming in. It was quite active. We went back through the air photo record. The gully was there in 1945, but not as bad as it was in modern day. So the topsoil is stockpiled. We then use the machine, the bulldozer, to deep rip the subsoil and to push that subsoil into the gully and form it out to a fairly uniform profile. The machine was then used to pull the topsoil back over in a blanket, and it was only a shallow blanket, 50 to 75 millimetres thick. The site was seeded. Some deep ripping was done in the site to reduce the amount of runoff that can occur before vegetation establishes, and it was left to its own devices. Now, in addition to that, there's a 8 hectare catchment that contributes to this gully, and I was very keen to do something to reduce the amount of runoff that was entering the rehabilitated gully. So we constructed a diversion bank, and that's simply a structure that approximates a contour, so it's got a very slight gradient at 1 in 300. It picks up all the runoff from that 8 hectare catchment and takes it out to a ridge, and that's where we dispose of the water, because once water is deposited on a ridge, it has to spread out. Once water spreads out, it flows shallow, it flows slow, so it doesn't pose an erosion risk. It's important when structures like this diversion bank are built that they're designed and that they're surveyed, because you can't guess level. So this was surveyed, and I'm actually walking down the gradient, so I'm going in the direction of water flow. So when this bank was built, the topsoil was pulled off the site, stockpiled, the bank was built out of subsoil, and the topsoil put back over the channel. So you can see we've got an amazingly good vegetative cover, because these structures are designed to be vegetated, not bare earth. And you can see we've got plenty of freeboard in the bank. So from the channel to the crest of the bank is probably a good metre. And a structure like that will easily handle a very large runoff event from the catchment. In addition, the fact that the catchment has been deep ripped and seeded, that minimises the amount of runoff that comes here as well. So this bank will function for literally decades and really prevent any runoff or much runoff getting down here into the area that where we rehabilitated the gully. Now that work was done in early 2016, so 6 years ago. Since then, the site is rehabilitated beautifully. We also did quite a bit of ripping of the catchment above the diversion bank. So that 8 hectare of contributing catchment, we contour ripped that, and we also did some seeding in there. The site was fenced into a small holding paddock. It's either got a stock water in, I'm pretty sure it's got a water in it, because there's always a risk of dry paddocks with cattle getting in and not getting out, and that's a big issue to consider if you're doing any of these types of things where you're fencing. So over the intervening 6 years, we've monitored the site and the results have been very pleasing. It's stabilised beautifully, and it's no longer an active gully, and people still pull up at the road and have a look at it. So it's one of the better projects that I've been personally involved in it. I acknowledge David and the Nicholas family. They did a lot. They did the earthworks. We had a budget which didn't cover the total cost of the project, so there's significant contribution to the landholder to this project. The financial return from a small project like this to the overall property is almost negligible. So they did it for the desire to fix up a severe gully on their property. Great outcome.